pattern tracer. And then this one, which we made, it is a needle tool that we ground 4 sides, so it's a pointed pyramid. So if you want to come up later and look at it a little closer, altering the shape allows the clay to kind of peel out rather than just get pushed into the surface. Alright, so I'm just going to coat this in wax. So I do the inside the rim, and if you guys want to pass around some of these. Yeah, so what I am doing is, I like to do some work on the rim. So I did like 1 brush lower than that, so when I'm wiping away, it doesn't get stuck on the clay. And now I'm just covering the entire surface. So with the dents, it becomes a little bit more tricky. So I'm just going.
I'm sorry, I was screaming before. No.
So right now what I'm working with is porcelain. The 1 cup that has all the colors on it, that is stoneware, and then I use the same slip in it. So it's pretty compatible. I still get moments of black on the bottom from when I'm wiping off. So this just makes sure I have,
Keeps it clean.
keeps everything clean. Alright, so I'm just going to give that a moment to dry. You also want to pay attention to when you put the wax on, the clay's accepting the moisture from the wax. So that's why you also want to make sure it's that level harder just beyond.
What was the name that you said before in Japanese, I guess?
Mishima.
Mishima?
M-I-N.
M-I-S-H-I-M-A.
For the most part. So basically, after you get everything waxed, the slip I'm using is the clay body. That at Peters Valley we use a walnut to break it down a little bit more. I just used a bullet, the magic bullet. So it's 1 cup slip to 40 grams of coloring, and you can use any mason stain, any color. Alright, so now it's pretty dry. So basically, you're just drawing on the pot. So this is when foam is handy. And draw lines, and I'll have a TV show thing in the background.
50 grams we have to ask. Because I'm not.
It's just, it's calming for me. I just get to sit here and space out, make shapes. So all I'm doing is,
I love that body.
Yeah.
you're just kind of scratching the surface. You don't really have to dig into the clay body. So, so like I'll go through with,
Oh, the camera didn't hear.
yep. So the wax is just to resist. So I'm now creating spaces for the colorant to sit in.
And what was the proportions of the color?
1 cup slip to 40 grams of colorant.
40 grams.
To 40 grams?
40 grams.
40.
And what color, when you say colors, what are you using, stain or what?
Yeah, you can use mason stain. I forget which black this was specifically.
That's way out.
But
Not under glaze? You never used under glaze?
I'm sure you can. I just use slip.
Okay.
The great thing with this is it's very forgiving. So you can do like 1 layer and you're like, okay, it doesn't look quite right. And then you just keep adding. You're not limited to 1 layer. So right now I just have my basic pattern down. So the things I like to keep handy is I normally have paper towels. If you have a towel, you have to wash it. You also want to have a soft towel. I like to use Vivo paper towels. It's like cloth, but I don't have to worry about washing it. It can go right in the trash. And a bucket of water and a sponge, which you want to have barely wet. So I just have a soft brush. And if you want to not waste too much, you can use a tiny brush and painstakingly go through. I don't like to do that. So I use a little fluffier brush. So before you do that, you get these little boogers from where just wipe the boogers away, it's fine. So all I'm doing is I'm just applying it. And you'll see, like, especially with the little dots from the tracer, I might have to work my brush in there a little bit more. But because there's so many marks in here, I'm just filling up the space. If I had more general lines, I might just go ahead and follow the line rather than just fill in the space. So I've been playing around with the different ways to remove it. It's whatever works comfortably for you. So if it's still pretty wet, you can wipe it away. The reason I keep the slightly damp sponge is for once it dries. So if you want, you can make all your designs cover the entire thing. Just have your damp sponge and you can go around and clean it. You just have to be careful to go with the lines. If you go across it, that's when you start getting a little more muddled. You want to make sure you clean off your sponge. And so I'll just keep going around. I'll work on the inside of the rim. Just so, because the big thing for me is when you finish your cup of coffee, and if you're not busy at work, you just kind of have this moment for look at the bottom of your cup. So having that little bit of interest is just another little comfort for me. So I like to make sure I add a little bit of detail. Just mark the top. Does anybody have any questions? You can do it freehand.
Beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I'll make another line. I'll probably just sit here and do waves. I just made a jar that I did all the line work and then in between was all freehanded.
So all your colors are made with the slip and mason sponge. You don't not under. Have you ever tried just using underglaze for some, especially for some of the solid areas?
No, I haven't tried underglaze yet, but it's definitely worth the try.
And then do you put clear over the whole thing?
Yeah. So or any transparent glaze. So with all the multi-pieces, what I did was I painted in the red and then waxed over it.
That's a question. You wax the whole thing, so will you?
This is green wax. So once it goes in the kiln, the wax burns off. So for these, I'm painting in sections. So I do red section, wax over that. I'll do the blue circles.
So that's after it's bisqued?
Yep,
I
that's
see.
for the glazing process.
Right.
So it's just lots of nitpicky steps for the glazing process.
And you can't charge enough to make it worthwhile.
That
for the time.
That was one of the conversations during the workshop.
You ever tried plain glaze, thin glaze, it doesn't run?
Yeah, you can just do one. It's all about your preference. So, like, I'll have times where I need to concentrate on one piece rather than just go into production mode. Production mode, you'll get like 2 colors if you're lucky. But yeah, Doug Peltzman, he was telling us that he takes hours on his cups. But his wife is also a potter and they have some young kids and she doesn't want to do her own work, so she'll be the one sitting downstairs at night working on the line work.
And what does he charge for his cups?
What does he pay his wife?
50?
I think it was 50. in the realm of 50.
Probably still not making any money.
What kind of thoughts did he have about pricing when you've got this much handwork on it?
It didn't go very far. It was just, he just kind of begrudgingly sat there and was like, yeah, one day I actually sat down and calculated it, and you don't want to know what I make.
Don't.
Like, okay.
Yeah, good luck.
So yeah. So this is
Just enjoy the process.
the whole process. So you just sit here and keep working. So,
I have one question.
what's up?
When you're applying the clear glaze at the bisque stage, do you have problems with like pinholing? Yeah.
Rub your finger over it.
After you've applied the,
Yeah,
you know, when the
once
glaze.
it's dried, once you've applied the glaze and it's dried, like I learned from these set of plates.
Nice.
If you rub your finger over it, it helps take care of the majority of the issues. Yeah, right now I'm just freehanding. So you can sit here and use templates and trace, you can freehand. It's just, if you're a person who loves to sit in your sketchbook and doodle, this is a nice translation.
Yeah, I was gonna say more.
You wouldn't be talking to me, would you?
No, not at all.
Pass it around to Susan.
So I just did basic line work. So this is one I can just go directly over the line.
Amanda, when you do a big spot like those blue ones on that cup, do you cut away a whole? Do you just make an indent, or do you cut away
The line work?
another big?
The bottom
The
blue.
little big dots. You said you painted that first?
Oh yeah, so I do that and then I wax over it, and then I hand brush in the blue,
Okay.
and then I wax over it,
Right.
and then I was able to dunk the bottom blue, and then dunk that in transparent.
So they're all after the bisque, though.
Yeah,
Reds and
that's the
blues are
glazing,
after the
that's the
glazing
glazing process, yeah.
It's not to be confused with the greenware line work we're doing.
Oh, so this is, the red and the blue, these are not underglazes underneath your lines. This is, you've put a glaze over the top
Yes,
of your lines.
yes, so lots of transparent glazes.
So it's okay going over the wax?
Yeah, so when you get that color and then you go over it with the wax,
Yeah, like that.
it repels the other colors. So you might have some beading. You just want to make sure you remove that from on top of the wax because it might stay. Am I clear? Or?
Sorry.
The boogers? Is that what you mean?
No, she's talking about during the glazing process when I go over.
If you get beads of glaze on top of the wax resist, you should clean it up.
Remove that.
Yeah.
Oh, clean it up, yes.
Unless you like them.
So. I might go back in
That's not
and rub away
desirable.
some more. I started working on one spot too much and got muddled. But I did one round and I can go back and do some more and add more.
Now, why do you put water in the wax? Why don't you use it just straight?
It lets you use the product a little bit longer. And it doesn't have to be that thick.
It dries faster too.
It dries faster too.
Less smell in your kiln.
But as far as the decorating part, is it easier to use it watered down than if it was thicker?
A little bit.
Probably, right?
Because all you're doing, this way you know you're really scratching
Yeah,
the surface.
it could chip off maybe in some areas.
So you're just keep going through.
Just a sort of, I guess, off the topic question. I noticed on the plate, the clear glaze crackle, the crackle. I know, well, actually,
happy
I
or not
kinda
happy
like
with
that.
that?
I know there's a lot of argument, people
Yeah.
say it's a weakness,
Mm.
it's not a good thing.
Well, it's called crazing when people don't like it.
Crazy.
It's crackle
Yes.
when people like it.
No,
Well
crazy,
put.
right, exactly. I mean, I don't know what people think about that, or whether they see any major issues with crazing of
It's
that
not
sort.
food
Like,
safe,
I-
It's
then,
not
right?
food safe
Yeah.
because
Well,
of
I did it
In
bacteria.
what respect?
I used it
Bacteria.
when I was
It can
making
absorb
pendants,
In the cracks.
and I liked the crackle, and I added ink to it so you could see it a little bit more. So there are instances where, like,
Oh, I'm sorry.
on the functional stuff, especially on the inside,
Thank
I
you.
try to avoid it because of that safety.
Well, a lot of, I have some, for instance, Posey Bacopolis.
Yes.
It's crazed inside. The glaze is crazed, the white glaze.
Does it
I mean,
last?
it seems to me if you put something in the dishwasher, you're not gonna have any issue with bacteria.
Oh, no, my experience was not an issue of bacteria. My problem, because I was making the crystallines and the ground was.
I was just going over with a dry cloth just to try to get some of this remnants off. And then, so once I'm done with the black slip, I have some hacksaw blades that I cut into different sizes, like, so for teeny tiny spaces. So this way, you'll see it on this mug. The glaze will have a place to sit, so I have lines that aren't black. So I'll just go down.
Dental tools is really good sgraffito tools, so if you're at your dentist, see if he's got any he's gonna throw away or she.
Don't ask the hygienist. I got yelled at when I did that.
Why?
Oh, well, I think she thought I wanted to use it on my own teeth.
Oh.
And I explained 3 times that, like, no, I'm a potter. I sculpt things. I'm using it on that, not on my teeth. I know better.
Well, then they wouldn't have a job. Well, that'd be clever.
I didn't see this one.
You can pass that around. So you get the lines. And this way, you get to fill in the space, and it'll just be like the colorant line rather than a black line.
Kind of reminds me of a nail point.
Yeah.
Really neat.
And that was very
And thank you
nice.
especially
Thank
to
you.
Amanda for volunteering.